You woke up one morning, and it struck you that you'd been imitating someone else for so long, you had entirely lost touch with your true self. It wasn't a sudden, shattering moment. There was no huge crisis or emotional collapse, just a deep, quiet dread settling in as you looked in the mirror while brushing your teeth and saw a stranger staring back. Not because you had evolved, but because you were stagnant. The same recurring thoughts, the identical worries, the usual reactions to familiar triggers, the repeating emotional responses to different situations, the identical you, again and again and again. And in that instant, perhaps due to a shift in the light or your soul, finally shouting loud enough for your awareness to catch it, a shocking truth dawned on you. You have been practicing daily. You've grown increasingly adept at being the person you were the day before. You've perfected the actions, memorized the scripts, and mastered the portrayal of you, the most unsettling part. You became so skilled at this act that you started believing the role was real. You began to think that the anxious version of you was your inherent nature, that the stressed, overwhelmed, small-playing persona was your definitive character, that the one who keeps saying someday when things settle down, or after I finish this, was your core identity. But here's the revelation that hit you in the bathroom mirror. None of it was fixed. Your personality, the self you consider so definite, so immutable, so fundamentally you, is merely a compilation of ingrained behaviors. It's a set of automated thoughts you've repeated so often, they became your internal monologue. It's a pattern of emotional reactions you've exercised so constantly, they became your chemical baseline. You aren't genuinely being yourself. You are simply being a habit, a highly sophisticated, very convincing, incredibly well-rehearsed habit, but a habit nonetheless. And the future you constantly discuss, the life you promise to build when you're ready, the superior version of yourself you'll eventually become, that future has been wasting away in the waiting room while you've been stuck in the studio, rehashing the same scenes from your past. You hoped, illogically, that mere repetition would somehow lead to change. It won't. It leads to solidification. Every time you respond the same way, you're casting a vote for that version of yourself to persist. Every time you experience the same feelings, you're signing a contract with your biology to keep generating the same chemicals. Every time you think the same thoughts, you're etching deeper grooves into the neural paths that keep you trapped in the established routines. You are not immobilized. You are just astoundingly, spectacularly, detrimentally consistent. And your body, it figured out long ago that this is your identity. So it constructed an entire biological framework dedicated to maintaining this current version of you. It became comfortable, highly efficient, and incredibly proficient at being the you keep reinforcing. It's so good at it that now when you try to initiate change, your body perceives it as a threat because to your nervous system, change doesn't feel like advancement. It feels like disintegration. Let me expose a truth that might make you uneasy. Every time you uttered tomorrow, your nervous system registered never and started optimizing accordingly. You might believe putting things off is due to laziness, a lack of discipline, or needing a better system or partner. It's not. It's about self-identity preservation. See, your brain has one core function to keep you alive. And for your brain, being alive equates to being the same, because the same is predictable. The same is secure. The same is familiar. And the familiar ensures survival. So when you declare you'll wake up early, your brain doesn't register ambition. It registers danger. Because waking up early means becoming a different person than you are today. And different people engage in different activities. And different activities yield different outcomes. And different outcomes imply unpredictability. And unpredictability suggests potential harm. Thus, your brain, in its ancient protective wisdom, decides to shield you from yourself. It floods your system with the same chemical mix, it's been administering for years, the comforting blend of stress hormones, pleasure-seeking neurotransmitters, and habit-forming emotional states that ensure you remain exactly as you've always been. It activates the same nerve pathways. It triggers the same mental patterns. It produces the same sensations. And suddenly, as if by magic, you find yourself hitting the snooze button again. Not because you are weak, but because your body is too strong. Strong enough to override your conscious intentions with its deep subconscious programming. Here's the formula. Every thought you generate triggers a chemical. Every chemical generates a feeling. Every feeling reinforces the original thought. And the more this cycle repeats, thought, chemical feeling, the more your body develops an addiction to being you. Not the you aspire to be, but the you've consistently been. And your body is indifferent to your vision board. It doesn't care about your aspirations. It ignores the life you claim to desire. All it cares about is maintaining the chemical environment it has grown dependent on. You've been getting intoxicated on your own internal supply, that persistent stress. That's your drug. The constant worry, that's your quick fix. The familiar misery of playing small, that's your addiction. And just like any addict, you've engineered your entire life around maintaining this supply. You select relationships that provide those familiar emotions. You orchestrate situations that generate the same stress. You invent issues that rationalize the same emotional responses, not deliberately but invariably, because your body isn't designed for your happiness. It's designed for familiarity, and familiarity feels safe, even when it is devastating you, even when it's blocking you from everything you profess to want. Even when you're lying awake, questioning why nothing ever progresses, it's because you are chemically invested in remaining unchanged. Your cells have been submerged in the same neurochemical mixture for so long that they literally do not possess the ability to function in any other environment. So when you try to change, to think differently, feel differently, act differently, your cells panic. They begin transmitting distress signals to your brain. Something is wrong. We're not receiving our usual chemicals. Fix this immediately. And your brain, ever the diligent servant, generates thoughts that will produce the familiar feelings, which will create the familiar chemicals, which will appease your cells. Thoughts like, this isn't working. This is impractical. Who am I fooling? I'll try again next week. These are not your thoughts. This is your addiction speaking. Your body protecting its chemical comfort zone by persuading you that maintaining the status quo is the sensible, logical, and intelligent course of action. And the quantum reality, the truth that most people miss is this: your cells cannot distinguish between a long-term goal and a psychological prison. They simply recognize, this is the environment we have adapted to. This is the chemistry we anticipate. This is who we are. So when you say tomorrow, what your body registers is keep everything exactly the same, because we aren't actually going to do anything different. And it complies. It keeps you secure. It keeps you limited. It keeps you the same, day after day, until one day becomes no day, until someday becomes never, until the future you promised yourself becomes just another story you tell yourself to accept. Staying exactly who you are. Why one day is the most costly deception your brain ever sold you. Because every time you fall for it, you're not just deferring action, you're compounding your past. And here's what no one ever tells you about delaying: your body doesn't wait with you. You thought you were simply reliving days. In reality, you were stacking your past into your future. To illustrate, in finance, compound interest is a marvel. You invest capital, it grows, and then that growth begins to generate its own returns. Small, consistent investments over time lead to exponential results. But compounding works in reverse too. In the structure of your nervous system, you have been making daily deposits into the account of the same person. Every repetitive thought is a deposit. Every familiar emotional reaction is a deposit. Every predictable behavior is a deposit. And just like money in an account, these deposits do not sit idle. They grow, they multiply, they compound. But instead of generating financial wealth, you have been building biology, neural networks that grow thicker, more robust, and faster with every use. Emotional patterns that solidify into your baseline, your default setting, your normal. Chemical addictions that your cells expect, rely on, and crave. You are not living spontaneously in the present. You are operating on the momentum of 10,000 previous days. That anxiety you experience when attempting something new. That is not intuition, that is compound interest. Years of similar moments layered upon one another, creating a biological expectation that the new equals danger. That hesitation you feel when trying to wake up early, start the project, or initiate the conversation, that is not laziness, that is compound interest. Thousands of mornings hitting snooze, forging a neural expressway that proclaims, this is our routine, this is who we are. That automatic feeling of defeat when things don't go as planned, that is not the objective situation, that is compound interest. A lifetime of comparable letdowns compressed into a chemical signature that your body immediately recognizes and reproduces. Here's the neural science. Every time you reiterate a thought, your brain cells fire in the same sequence, and neurons that fire together wire together. The more you repeat the pattern, the more automated it becomes. The more automated it becomes, the less conscious effort is required. The less conscious effort is required, the more your life switches to autopilot. And autopilot always directs you back to yesterday, because yesterday is the only flight plan your nervous system has memorized. This is the reason affirmations are ineffective, why visualization efforts fall short, why you can absorb every self-help book, watch every inspiring video, and attend every workshop, yet still find yourself caught in the same cycles, facing the same difficulties, being the same person. It's because you are attempting to construct a new future with an old signal. Your thoughts might be optimistic, but your body is still transmitting negativity. Your vision might be abundant, but your emotional state is still scarcity. Your goals might be extraordinary, but your energy remains ordinary. And the quantum field that responds not to your stated wishes, but to your actual state of being, is interpreting your signal clearly. It isn't listening to what you say you want. It is mirroring who you are, and who you are is a biological ledger of your past. Every cell in your body holds memories, not metaphorical memories, but actual biological, chemical records of every emotional experience you've ever had. Your cells remember the betrayal, the rejection, the failure, the disappointment, and the fear, and they are using those memories to predict your future. So when you announce you are going to act differently, your cells consult their records. They rapidly scan decades of comparable moments, and based on the historical data, based on the compounded evidence of who you've been, they calculate the likelihood of who you will be. And the calculation is always the same. Low probability of change, high probability of repetition. Not because you are incapable of changing, but because you haven't yet changed. And the longest relationship you will ever have is with yourself. Right now, that relationship is based entirely on precedent. You've consistently shown your body exactly who you are, and your body trusts you. It has built an entire operating system around the version of you that you have consistently presented. So when you try to become someone different, your body doesn't see potential. It sees betrayal. It sees you attempting to violate the contract you've been signing daily for years. The contract that declares, this is my identity. This is how I think. This is how I feel. This is how I react. This is me. And your body will employ every resource to hold you to that agreement. It will generate thoughts that sound like you, emotions that feel like you, impulses that seem like you, all designed to realign you with the person you've been rehearsing to be. Because to your body, that person is safe, even if that person is unhappy, even if that person is unfulfilled, even if that person is slowly deteriorating internally. Safe doesn't mean joyful. Safe means predictable. And predictability is what your body has been diligently building towards every single day through the compound interest of repeated thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Your personality, how you think, how you act, how you feel, has been consistently creating your personal reality on a loop. Same personality, same reality, over and over and over. Different situations, perhaps different environments, different people, but the same you producing the same outcomes, and you wonder why the pattern never breaks. It's because the pattern isn't external, it's internal. In the neural wiring, in the chemical dependency, in the cellular memory, in the electromagnetic signature that your heart is broadcasting dozens of times a minute, informing the universe exactly who you are and what you are available for. And the universe listens. It always listens not to your words, not to your intentions, not to your someday aspirations, but to your signal. And your signal has been set to repeat yesterday for so long. You have been living in a continuous loop, perplexed as to why the future never arrives. But here is the critical insight that will change everything. Biology is not fate. It is merely yesterday's programming, and that programming can be rewritten. The most tragic part is not what you failed to keep. It's what you never became because you were too committed to your comfort. Ponder this right now. In this moment, there are versions of yourself that were never allowed to exist. Dreams that perished in the waiting room. Ideas that suffocated under the weight of not yet. Conversations you never initiated. Risks you never embraced. Moments you never seized because you were too loyal to the secure, predictable, comfortable version of yourself. And those potential versions of you, they are not coming back. Every day you spend being the person you were yesterday is a day the future version of you does not get to live. You believe you are playing it safe, but you are actually attending a funeral, your own funeral, while you are still alive. And the eulogy writes itself every morning when you wake up and choose to be the same person again. Here lies the version of me who was going to write that book. Here lies the version of me who was going to launch that business. Here lies the version of me who was going to have that difficult conversation. Here lies the version of me who was finally going to become the person I knew I could be. Not because they were impossible, but because they were inconvenient. Because they demanded that you feel discomfort, that you embrace uncertainty, that you step into the unknown without a guarantee of success. So you stayed in the known, and in doing so, you extinguished every possible future that required you to be someone different. This is the unacknowledged grief work, the mourning that happens in silence, in the dead of night when you can't sleep, because a part of you knows deeply and painfully that you are capable of so much more than what you are currently settling for. Your soul is protesting your predictability, that persistent agitation you feel. That is not standard anxiety. That is not typical stress. That is not even simply depression. That is your future self pounding on the door of your present moment, pleading with you to let them in. That is the you could be trying to grab your attention, trying to breach the thick wall of familiarity, routine, and this is just who I am, that you've built around yourself. But you keep hitting snooze on that alarm too. Because here's the reality of becoming someone new. It necessitates the demise of someone old. And you've been so consumed with keeping the old version of yourself alive, so invested in preserving this identity, this personality, this familiar way of being, that you've been starving every potential future that required you to release that person. You crave transformation, yet you also want to remain the same. You desire the new life, but you also want to retain the old comfort. You long for the breakthrough, but you wish to avoid the breakdown that precedes it. Consequently, you've been existing in a strange limbo, not truly growing, not truly living, just surviving, going through the motions, checking the boxes, playing the role, and with every passing day, the chasm between who you are and who you could be widens. Not because you lack the ability, but because you lack the willingness. You are unwilling to tolerate the discomfort of change. You are unwilling to sit in the uncertainty of not knowing. You are unwilling to undergo the withdrawal symptoms of abandoning your emotional addiction. You are unwilling to mourn the person you've been, even though that person is preventing you from having everything you say you want. So you remain. You stay in the relationship that doesn't serve you because at least it's familiar. You stay in the job that drains you because at least it's stable. You stay in the patterns that harm you because at least they are predictable. And with every choice to stay, another version of your potential future dies. Another timeline collapses. Another possible reality ceases to exist. Another you that could have been becomes a you that will never be. And the burden of all those unlived lives, that's what you are carrying. That's what makes you exhausted. Not the stress of your current life, but the weight of all the lives you chose not to live. Your someday self has been starving while your current self kept consuming the same emotional meals. You kept feeding yourself the same thoughts, the same feelings, the same chemical states, the same experiences. You kept consuming the familiar, the known, the safe. And while you were doing that, the version of you that needed something different, something more, something elevated, something extraordinary was wasting away. Starving for new experiences, starving for growth, starving for you to finally step into the discomfort that transformation requires. But instead you chose comfort, and comfort in excess is a slow death. It is the death of possibility, the death of potential, the death of the parts of you that were destined for more than simply reliving the same day over and over. You are not depressed. You are not anxious. You are not stuck. You are bored. Bored of being you. Your soul is crying out for novelty, for growth, for evolution, and you keep feeding it the same reruns, the same episodes, the same season, year after year after year. And deep inside, you know this. You feel it in the quiet moments, in the middle of the night, in that bathroom mirror reflection that initiated this entire realization. You know you are capable of more. You know you are meant for more. You know there are extraordinary versions of yourself, powerful versions that are living the life you only dream about. But those versions demand that you become someone you have never been. And that is terrifying because it necessitates letting go of the person you've practiced being for so long. It requires abandoning the identity you've constructed your entire life around. It demands stepping into a void where you don't know who you are anymore. It means dying while you are still breathing. And this is where it becomes critical, because you are about to discover what your body has been concealing from you. You are not addicted to external substances. You are addicted to the emotional state that being you produces. Let that reality sink in for a moment. You wake up every morning and within moments you are already reaching for your fix. Not coffee, not your phone, your familiar self. Before your eyes are fully open, your brain is already activating the same neural circuits it activated yesterday. Already releasing the same chemicals, already generating the same thoughts that will produce the same feelings, that will drive the same behaviors, that will create the same experiences, that will generate the same emotions, that will influence the same thoughts, and the loop begins again. You believe you are waking up to a new day, but neurologically, chemically, and biologically, you are simply hitting replay on yesterday. And the day before and the day before that, you are not living. You are looping, and your body has become so dependent on this loop, so accustomed to this specific cocktail of neurochemicals, that anything outside of it feels wrong, dangerous, intolerable. This is the addiction no one warned you about. Not to drugs, not to alcohol, not to any external substance, but to the internal chemistry of your own being. See, every time you generate a thought, Your brain releases specific chemicals. When you worry, your body produces cortisol and adrenaline. When you stress, it floods with norepinephrine. When you feel self-pity, it bathes in a unique mix of neuropeptides for which your cells have receptor sites. And just like any drug, the more you use it, the more your body adapts. The more it expects it, the more it needs it. Your cells literally develop an appetite for the emotions you feed them most consistently. So if you've been anxious for a decade, your cells have built a system around anxiety. They've created receptor sites that are hungry for the chemistry of worry. They wake up every morning anticipating their dose, craving it, demanding it. And if you don't provide it, they revolt. They send urgent signals to your brain. We require our anxiety. We require our stress. We require our familiar emotional state. Generate the thoughts that will produce it now. And your brain, being the good servant that it is, complies. It begins scanning your life for problems, for threats, for worst-case scenarios. Not because there is an actual problem, but because your cells are going through withdrawal and they need their chemical fix. This is why positive thinking fails. Why affirmations feel empty. Why you can intellectually know better, but still not do better. Because knowing happens in your conscious mind, but your addiction resides in your body. And your body doesn't care what you know. It cares what it feels. And it wants to feel familiar. Even when the familiar is harming you. Even when the familiar is keeping you small, trapped, suffering. Your body would rather be miserable and comfortable than elevated and unknown. Because miserable and comfortable is a known quantity. Your cells have adjusted to it. Your nervous system has organized around it. Your entire biology has been built to sustain it. And here is the quantum truth that changes everything. Your body has become so chemically addicted to being you that change doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels like dying. Your cells have been submerged in the same chemical environment for so long that they have literally become reliant on it. They need it to function. They need it to survive. And when you attempt to change, to think differently, feel differently, or be differently, your cells interpret it as a threat to their existence. So they fight back. They create physical sensations, discomfort, exhaustion, resistance. They generate emotions that pull you back. They produce thoughts that rationalize staying the same. And you, not comprehending what is occurring, believe the resistance is valid. You think the doubt is justified. You think the discomfort signifies a genuine problem, but nothing is wrong. Everything is right. The discomfort is proof that you are changing. The resistance is evidence that you are breaking the addiction. The thoughts trying to pull you back are just your cells panicking because they are not receiving their usual chemical supply. You are not failing. You are detoxing from yourself. And just like any detox, it intensifies before it improves. Your body will try everything to make you revert. It will make you tired, irritable, doubtful. It will convince you that this isn't working, that change is too difficult, that perhaps you are simply destined to be this way. But those are not your thoughts. That is your addiction talking. Your body is desperately trying to maintain its chemical comfort zone by convincing your conscious mind that staying the same is the safe, smart, and reasonable course of action. You have constructed your entire life around maintaining your emotional supply. Consider it, the relationships you are in. They are providing you with the same emotional chemicals. The partner who triggers your fear of abandonment. The friend who reinforces your victim narrative. The family member who makes you feel inadequate. You keep them close not because you enjoy how they make you feel, but because your body recognizes how they make you feel. The circumstances you create, they are producing the same stress chemicals. The chronic, overwhelming feeling, the last-minute frenzy, the self-manufactured crisis. You are not poor at planning. You are skilled at creating the conditions that generate your familiar emotional state. The environment you maintain, it supports the same chemical patterns. The clutter that generates anxiety. The disorganization that induces stress. The chaos that makes you feel like a victim of your own life. You believe these are problems. They are not. They are solutions. Solutions to your body's need for its daily dose of familiar chemistry. You are not trying to fix your life. You are trying to maintain your addiction, and you have become exceptionally good at it. So good that you have persuaded yourself it is not a choice, that this is just who you are, your personality, your nature, your immutable self. But it's not. It's just chemistry. Chemistry you have practiced for so long, you have forgotten it was ever a choice. And now, when you attempt to choose differently, your body treats it like an emergency, like survival is at risk, like you are trying to kill it, because, in a way, you are. You are trying to kill the chemical environment it has been inhabiting, the predictable patterns it has been relying on, the familiar identity it has organized around. And your body will exert all its power to stop you. So when you say you want to change, your body registers you want to die. Everyone discusses 30-day transformations. No one mentions the first 21 days are a biological conflict. Let me detail what actually occurs when you attempt to change, not the idealized version, not the motivational poster version, the genuine neurological, chemical, biological version. Because if you fail to grasp this, you will quit right before the breakthrough, just as most people do. Days 1 through 7, the honeymoon phase. This is where everyone begins, brimming with motivation, energized by the decision, running on the illusion of this time will be different. You are not truly changing yet. You are just excited by the idea of changing. Your body hasn't yet realized what's happening. It assumes this is another of your temporary enthusiasms, another resolution that will be abandoned soon. So it doesn't fight you. Not yet. You feel positive, energized, powerful. You think, this is simple. Why did I wait so long? But you are not operating on transformation. You are running on the decision, on willpower, on the chemical rush of commitment, and that rush is fleeting. Days 8 through 21, the dark night of the cellular soul. This is where the real work commences, and this is where most people quit. Around day 8, your body finally realizes you are serious, that this is not a temporary lapse, that you are genuinely trying to alter the chemical environment it has become dependent on, and it panics. Suddenly you are exhausted, more tired than you have been in months. Your body is redirecting energy away from other functions to fight this change, to pull you back to equilibrium. The thoughts become louder, more persuasive. This isn't working. This is too difficult. Perhaps I'm not meant to change. I'll start again on Monday. Your emotions become volatile. You are irritable, overly sensitive, quick to anger or sadness. Your body is cycling through every emotional state in its arsenal, attempting to find the one that will break your resolve, the one that will make you produce the familiar chemistry it craves. You begin to doubt everything, the process, yourself, the possibility of change. Your body is generating thoughts that sound logical, rational, and sensible, but they are not. They are merely sophisticated justifications for staying the same. This is the withdrawal phase. Your cells are not receiving their usual chemicals. They are undergoing the biological equivalent of detox, and they are making you suffer for it. Most people quit here, at day 9 or day 14 or day 19, right before the breakthrough. They believe the resistance means it's not working. They think the discomfort indicates a problem. They assume the thoughts are accurate, but the resistance is proof it's working. The discomfort is evidence of change. The thoughts are just your addiction making one last desperate attempt to pull you back. And if you can just endure, if you can just remain conscious, if you can just refuse to revert to the person you were, even when every cell in your body is screaming at you to return to the familiar, something miraculous happens. Around day 21, the conflict begins to subside. Your body starts to yield. It begins to accept that this new chemistry, this new way of being, is the new standard. The neural pathways you've been building become strong enough to compete with the old ones. The emotional patterns you've been practicing become familiar enough that your cells cease fighting them. The resistance diminishes. The thoughts soften. The pull of the old self begins to weaken, not because it has vanished, but because you have constructed something stronger. But here is a truth no one tells you. The quantum field doesn't respond to your intentions. It responds to your state of being. You can meditate daily, visualize your future, set your intentions. But if your body is still transmitting the emotional signature of your past, the field disregards your visualization. It's reading your signal, and your signal is set to yesterday.